So as you probably know, Nintendo just dropped an update for Splatoon 3. Now this is pretty fantastic indeed because it leads you to believe maybe they're working on Splatoon 4. Now, these changes and update adds pretty much a lot to the game. One of them being an aura flow state that essentially when you get more and more eliminations, you'll start to glow in an aura sort of form that would essentially give you more attack, more damage, and also more speed, so you're pretty much going to be the big boss on the map. Until you get eliminated, that's going to stay around. And it lasts for about 30 seconds, but if you get another elimination during that 30 seconds, well, your time essentially resets. So you're back to 30 seconds, you get another elimination, that's back to 30 seconds. So overall, this is really interesting, but it leads you to believe that they do this because they're testing something out for Splatoon 4, or is this for something completely different? Well, let's get straight into it. Now, if you take a look at the ideas of Splatoon 4, what exactly could they add? Because at the end of the day, Splatoon is Splatoon. If you take a look at the first game and move it all the way to the third game, you essentially get the same base concept, where you're a little inkling and you gotta go and splat a whole bunch of other inklings, which it leads you to believe if they add this to one game, are they testing out something for the next game? I think that the answer might be yes. I think they're testing something out for Splatoon 4. But you might just be saying, hold up, what about Splatoon Raiders? Nintendo announced this a couple months ago and we still haven't had word about this development cycle. Well, Splatoon Raiders is a different story. It essentially is Splatoon, but it seems like it's going to be more focused to a single player experience. Sort of like how the Splatoon 3 has its own campaign where you have to go and remove some splatlings, remove a whole bunch of bad little fish that are attacking the world. So it seems like Splatoon Raiders is going to be a mission-based Splatoon game. But it could definitely have some of these features that the update adds. The update adds a bunch of things like health bar. Health bar would be pretty helpful inside of a single player experience. But why does Splatoon 3 need this, even though inside the multiplayer base game, you can see some of these updates? Now that's definitely a very great and interesting question. When you take a look at it, I believe that this could lead into Splatoon 4. Now you gotta remember that when games are getting developed, they're not always based on the same team. So the same team could be working on Splatoon 3 and then Splatoon 4, but they also could have a separate team that could be Splatoon Raiders. Now if you look at the case like the Super Mario Odyssey team, now the Odyssey team made Super Mario Odyssey, but also they made Donkey Kong Bonanza. And if we were going to be getting another 3D Mario this year, well, that team was actually split off into different ends. They could be working on that game and working on the other game. So the point is, it looks like Splatoon 4 could be worked on from a different team than the one that's doing Splatoon Raiders, which gives them that friendly link, but they don't have to have too much work done at the same time. So instead of a game coming out in 8 years, it could come out in like 4 years. There you go. I think that this maybe was Nintendo actually testing Splatoon 4, and this would be really exciting. They also changed a bunch of different things that could be for Splatoon 4 as well. If you take a look at this screenshot right here, you can see version 10.1.0. Now this is essentially the base version before version 11, but essentially it just changes up your hitbox. So when you're inside of the little squid mode, you're harder to hit. So I guess this is a great thing because if you look all the way 10 years ago on the Wii U, well then, it pretty much changed, and the directory from Splatoon as a whole has definitely changed in many ways. I honestly think that Splatoon 4 is going to be great, and all of these things could just be a test and a lead up for that. So instead of doing a global mode that you can have a chance to play Splatoon 4 before it comes out, they can kind of do this testing. Now, of course, when Splatoon 4 gets announced, we'll probably see some sort of global testing once again, but this just leads into if the players like it or the players don't like it. If it works out great, well then there you go. It can make some pretty interesting touches to the game. Now, how exactly would Splatoon 4 work? since we have all of these new enhancements, I believe that Splatoon 4 would be much different than we currently have it in Splatoon 3, 2, and maybe even 1. Now, every single game adds essentially their own unique weapons, ideas, sources, and pretty much everything associated to that. But not every game has to be like the exact same. They feel pretty much the same. I feel like Splatoon 4 is going to have a direct overhaul to the Splatoon series. So I'm not saying that it's going to be completely different, that you look at Splatoon and it doesn't look the same. It looks like you're looking at a 1980s TV and then you move it over to a Samsung extra large wide range TV ratio. No, it's not going to be that big of a jump, but just enough to notice that there is some changes. And I'm honestly getting really excited about Splatoon 4. I think that this is just Nintendo testing out the groundwork of Splatoon 4 so then they can get ready for the next big jump. And I think that we're probably going to be seeing more and more updates to Splatoon 3, because if we do, that's probably them working on Splatoon 4 and getting that ready. And in case you were wondering, Splatoon 4 could come out as early as 2027. This is a pretty crazy thing to say. I mean, Splatoon 3 is definitely a very fantastic game. It's really well polished, came out of the oven really smoking hot, but at the same time, it's probably time for a refresh, if you know what I mean. But overall, I'm excited. I think that it's going to be fantastic. I think that this is just Nintendo testing out, laying out everything pretty much flat, as companies tend to do. They usually take something like a older game, try it out, see if it works, pretty much have the set models, because essentially what Splatoon is every single year or every single couple of years, you get your updated models, your gun work that gets updated in some smaller ways. If you look at Splatoon 1, that was majorly compacted with your plain basic weapons. Like you got something that looks like a water gun. You also have little weapons that shoot a little bit farther, but still a water gun. And then moving over to Splatoon 2, you had brushes and dual-wielded weapons, which it was kind of more like a futuristic vibe, if you know what I mean. But then we're moving to Splatoon 3, which Splatoon 3 was more like far range. You had bow and arrows, you had more like these rustic, old-looking weapons. But the point is, they were all different in many different ways, especially the weapon roster. So now what's next for Splatoon 3? Are we going to have things that really deal a lot of damage? You have things like shotguns, you got things like abilities that fall from the sky. Who knows? It's definitely a very cool thing, and I can't wait. Like, I've said this so much, but I can't wait to see what's next. Splatoon is one of those interesting games that you really just hop on, shut off your brain, you're like, I'm gonna splat some people, heck yeah. Anyways, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think Splatoon 4, the Nintendo has laid the groundwork for Splatoon 4 that could release pretty soon? Because this is definitely a very interesting thing. Why would Nintendo update this game almost 3 years after the game come out? Because, like, it doesn't really make sense. Not too many companies actually do that, unless Nintendo's just the odd few. Because we've seen definitely some updates with older games, like Animal Crossing has been receiving updates that do change up quite a lot of things in the game. We also have a whole bunch of Switch 2 editions, so is this Nintendo's way of that Switch 2 edition? Now, who knows? Because earlier this year, or should we say earlier in 2025, we did get essentially a Switch 2 edition for Splatoon, which was free and added other things. So yeah, this is definitely an interesting thing. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. Consider hit the like button, maybe subscribing if you're new. We do a bunch of different Nintendo content. Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, Kirby, Nintendo things, news, everything Nintendo. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.